The fourth model looks at Lance as he confronts him to fight. He knows that Lance only has the power to use gravel skills, but he believes he is worthy of being in his position and he can defeat him. He asks him if he thinks he can defeat him because he is in his worthless school. He tells him that he is stronger and being weak is so inexcusable, and he is not going to fight lowly. As the fight starts, Lance activates Gravizel and says that he has no time to be his playmate and he wants to start the fight and end it as fast as possible. As he activates Gravel, he sees that Orthmil has disappeared and he wonders what has happened. He turns around to see where he has turned to. He keeps turning around until he hears Worthmantle's voice behind him telling him that he doesn't know that he can use gravity magic, and it is such a surprise that he can actually use gravity magic. His body turns into different shapes, he has about 5 different bodies, and he attacks Lance with them. He stands behind him and says he thinks the fight will actually be more interesting than he thinks it will be. The 5 figures fly towards Lance, who activates his Grey Vial again. As he does that, Worthmantle disappears immediately and turns into mud again. He laughs at Lance and says all the skills that Lance is using are useless. He activates his own clones and it turns into a stick and attacks Lance with it. Although Lance dodges the attack, he is still trying to figure out what is happening in the fight and why he keeps losing. Lance sees that Worthmantle is using the mud clones to avoid all of his attacks. He figures that if he wants to win the fight, the only way he can do that is to crush the real one of the mud clones. Worthmantle stands up back and he sets out to attack him. He uses bursts and Lance sees that his legs are stuck. He sees that there is no way he can move again and Worthmantle assumes that he has won the fight. He sends several mud stones at him and Lance tries to avoid the stones, but it seems impossible. He laughs at Lance, telling him that he is from a good bloodline. He knows that he is from the royal bloodline and he says that the royal families are known for their renounced gravity power. He says since he can use gravity power because of his great bloodline, but he is only wasting his bloodline. He says that the only way he can use his skills is for him to join Magelopus. He tells him that his physical skill isn't so bad and he can be a good fit for their team, although he claims Magelopus can only be a good fit for their lower level mages. However, he says that he feels so sorry for him. He claims a magician that really wants to flourish needs a good environment for him to flourish. He says that as a mage, the people around him are the only reasons why he can flourish or become trash, and there is no way he can actually get better with his team. Lance asks him what he means and Worth laughs and jokes. He asks him if he is foolish and if he needs him to spell everything out for him before he can understand. He says the people and Adlers who are his teammates are trash, and if he keeps surrounding himself with trash like them, he will end up becoming trash too. He claims a mage should surround himself with people who are his equals. He claims that all of them at Magi Lupus are strong because they have a good environment for flourish. They have an excellent education, good tools to use, and also good potions. They have all the instruments needed for them to do better, and there is no way they can be weak. Lance laughs at him. He thinks the idea of how an environment is the key to a mage's success is just a mere bluff. He claims the strength of his conviction is not superficial enough for his environment to matter in what happens to him. Or if Mabel doesn't know that Lance has removed the mud in his legs. Lance asks him if he still thinks his environment is superior and that they will find out who will win the fight. He immediately activates his gravel and he slams it towards the wall by the side. Or if metal also turns into mud and he rests by the wall. He enters into the wall wondering if Lance changed his gravity skills towards the wall to intentionally get him. He says there is no way Lance could get him that way because he uses his power to turn all the walls into slums and enters into it. And unless Lance finds that out, he wouldn't be able to win. To Worthmetal's shock, Lance throws gravity into the wall he is hiding. Oh, he'll know. He wonders why Lance has changed his technique as the gravity affects him and he jumps out of the wall. He returns to ask Lance if he has found out his technique. Lance tells him that if he thinks the environment is what makes a mage who he is, then it means his environment is better than his own. He claims he is stronger and his environment is the best. Or if Metal refuses to accept defeat, he starts with his personal declaration of how strong he is and how he can't lose against anyone. He reminds himself that he was born with 2 marks which signify his great strength for magic. He has great skills that are stronger and greater than Lance's minor magic. He claims he was accepted to Easton Rite from his middle school due to his great skill and his admission to the magical lupus was inevitable due to his great skill. He has received the best of Lance's training. He is one of the best and he won't change that for anything. He encourages himself that he is strong and that there is no way he can be weak. He insists he isn't going to lose that fight and he brings out a liquid substance he is hiding in his hand. He calls Lance cocky and asks him if he thinks he has won him because he defeated him. He says that the substance in his hand is the energy that has been gotten from multiple students and with that energy, he will gain more power. He drinks it and his body formation changes. He tells Lance if he thinks he can defeat him and reminds him that they were trained in different environments, and where he was trained, there are enough skills for them to succeed. Lance also sees that his body has become stronger and he tries to attack him with secondary magic, but it's impossible as Worth Mantle creates a mud monster to block the attack. He walks towards him, telling him that there are different tiers of magic. He claims there are basic magic, personal magic, and there are even more advanced conditional magics. He claims the high-tier magic is the one only double-liners are allowed to cast, and it is only for certain people. Orthmetel remembers the times when he is taking his training. He remembers how his master has told him that the achievement of a mage is only based on his skills and the honor of a mage is only because of his skills. He reminds himself that he is worthy. He keeps screaming that he is worthy as he remembers his master's words that only those with an aptitude for magic are worthy and those without an aptitude for magic are unworthy and worthless. He screams that he is worthy and he is standing there because of his worthiness and it is not because of his aptitude. He refuses to accept defeat and says it is only because Lance is meeting with low mages that is why he thinks he has his level of skills and power. He activates his power in hopes of defeating him and he sends his mud monster towards him. On the other hand, Lance stands there looking at him without leaving. There he sees as the monster comes towards him. Lance defends the magic. He tells him that his teammates, who he calls flunkies, are funny because it reminds him of something. He remembers when he was also angry with his team and when he says he finds it difficult to make rational decisions. He tells Worth Mantle that he is the only one allowed to call his teammates flunkies and he won't allow any other person to call them that. He activates the second level of gravel. Lance's second level of gravel supersedes the mud monster that Worth Mantle has created. He brings out a chain and captures the monster. At that point, Worth Mantle recalls what his master had told him before and how his master had always told him that he was worthless. His master said to him that despite his double mark, he still can't prove himself worthy and it will take so much more for him to accept him as a disciple. Because of that, Worth Mantle has spent most of the time of his life trying to prove that he is worthy, and at that point, he has also proved again that he is worthless. Lance throws him a book of magic that he has found. He says that the book of magic is used and he knows that it is Worth Mantle who has used it that much. He claims that he should understand that a person's worth is not in his environment or how he grows up. Lance admits that he had the same upbringing as Worth Mantle and says that his parents also place people's worth on their wealth and what they do. But he has grown to realize that the concept of worth is more than that. He decides that he doesn't want to kill Worth Mantle but tells him that he doesn't like him, neither does he like the way he speaks or acts. However, he has to applaud his efforts and he really likes his effort. He leaves the room and Worth Mantle wonders why he is appreciating him. He claims he is not interested in Lance's respect or appreciation. Meanwhile, Abyss finds out that Mash can't use magic. She assumes that because he doesn't have the ability to use magic, he is weak and she uses her accelerate to caution him. She hits him the first time and also the second time and she tells him that there is no way he can defeat her. She claims if he still wants to keep up with the fight, he is free, but he should know that he will lose the fight. Nash tells her that although he can't use magic, he is not giving up on that fight. So she shows him his friend. She tells him that his friend is tied behind a demon that sucks out a person's magical energy within minutes. And if he decides not to keep up with that fight, he will save his friend. But if he wants to keep fighting, he will lose his friend and she will also become magicless like him. But this asks Mash if he wants his friend to become like him, but Mash doesn't give any response. They start the fight and after she fights him a lot, he also succeeds in inflicting injury on her. He tells her they have the same upbringing and he would like to remove her mask. She assumes that is impossible until he fights her and breaks her mask. When he breaks the mask, he sees she has a red eye. He asks her what it means because he thinks the red eye signifies bloodline. She realizes that he doesn't know what it means and she tells him the eye signifies evil eye and she is a threat to every magician, including her parents. He apologizes to her because her evil eye can't affect her. She narrates to him that she has always been hated by every magician, including her parents, so she is used to that. She creates a magic circle for them to continue the fight with the aim that a magic circle will reduce the power of the person inside it. Mash breaks the floor with his fist and breaks out of the circle, thereby defeating her. She accepts defeat and tells him that she got her eye as a kid and even her parents hated her. She tells him that her parents hid her inside a prison and one night she saw her mother strangling her. She decides that she has to be useful one way or the other. She appreciates his fighting skills but advises him that he should back up from finding Lord Abel. She claims the magic skills he saw Lord Abel use are lower than his real skill and he can't win.